So one final one. I'm taking over year six, leading year six. Are there any potential sticking points that I should be aware of before I get started?
Yes. Quarreling children. People may think that in year six, they're past that phase. You will be dealing with that from the minute they come in to the minute they leave. And particularly, it starts to ramp up on social media. This is where they start to really get their teeth into. And as much as like we should be always pushing the messages of they shouldn't have TikTok accounts, they shouldn't have WhatsApp, they shouldn't have, under the guidance, they do. And it's now impossible to police. They do have these things. I think having really, really strong messaging right from the word go around social media and particularly like social platforms and groups where they message each other and things is really important because there's not a year six in the land where there hasn't been an incident between these things, and I think it really does. And I'm not saying it happens in year five as well, but I don't know. From my experience, it particularly ramps up in year six, and I think as they're heading towards secondary, they've got one eye on that, and I think be prepared to be getting ahead of that stuff. So because it can get really messy and difficult. So mine's a bit of a random one, but just be mindful with the old social media.
Oh, there's so much. I spent the first kind of 4 or 5 years of my career in year six. First is there will be pressure either from SLT or just from other sources to make the whole year about SATs practice and push as much as you can, push back against that. Obviously, you want kids to feel ready for the assessment, the way it's going to look, etc. But SATs prep isn't actually a particularly useful way to get kids to do well on SATs, not on its own, certainly. So, push back against that. Also, the other side of that, after SATs, there tends to be a lot of what feels like dead time. It's like, oh, we've done SATs now. We don't need to teach maths anymore. We don't need to do writing anymore. Or we've been through local authority moderation, or that deadline's passed. We don't. Yes, you do. You're still a school. And there are lots of. This isn't to say, completely abandon the joys of rounders on the field in an afternoon.
Chris hates children.
But you're still a school, and it shouldn't be. They shouldn't arrive in year seven not having done maths for 3.5 or 4 months. It's just not right. Linked to Lloyd's thing about quarrels. That's a hormones thing. Hormones are kicking in for some of those kids. So be ready for all the onset of puberty entails, including air, and not limited to air freshener. I would say one thing to try and guard against is the idea of year six. Often in every school I've worked in, there's been at some point someone said, oh, well, year six, there's like a separate kingdom, or they're, a little world unto themselves. Try not to let that happen, or try to push back against that you are still part of the school. Yes, there are SATs bits that you have to deal with. Though, of course, year two have to deal with those as well. But you're still an integrated part of the school. It's very easy to see year six teachers in every staff meeting where someone's saying, well, actually, this might be a nice thing that we can do in history. To see the year six teachers nudging each other going, nah, not in year six. It's like, yes, in year six, you're part of the school. So try and keep them feeling like they are part of what's going on. SATs shouldn't change everything, as it can sometimes do. There's loads of stuff I could mention as well, but those are the things that just kind of jump out to me immediately.
It's the same with EYFS teachers, what you're saying about six as well. They are part of the school. They're not their own island. And I know it's nothing to do with the question, but I think it's worth saying that, the amount of times I hear leaders go, referring to 1 to 6 and then just tacking EYFS on the end, all subjects are born from EYFS. So must include that in the journey and not give them a year six treatment as well. I think.
Yeah. Hey, well, it kind of works the other way round in my experience, in that you're absolutely right that you have that sense of you can have that sense of separation, whereas the difference is in year six you're like, no, you're still part of our curriculum, be part of it. You are part of this school. Stop trying to separate. Whereas it's almost the other problem, the other end of the scale with EYFS. They do have a separate
ELGs.
they do have a separate curriculum, and it's almost often a desire to feel more involved with the rest of the school, because professional development often is done in a way that doesn't relate to EYFS or isn't relevant to EYFS, or begins with the person saying, I know this isn't relevant to you in reception, which isn't a great way to begin professional development for anyone. So yeah, there can be that disconnect. The difference is, in my experience, that year six are kind of pulling away intentionally. And I feel like I can say that because I spent half my career in year six, and I've taught in year six in a few different schools. So, love year six teachers, but try to be more involved and try to be more part of everything else rather than your own separate world if you can.
I agree as well. That's my experience. I spent the majority of my time in the year six as well, and multiple schools, and that I'm a little bit seen.
Nice. I think by the time this actually goes out, the person who posed the question will have been in post for that escalated quickly. Will have been in post for quite a while. So I hope things are going well for them, and anyone who has this on the horizon, can learn from you guys and your wealth of experience. I mean, funny enough, I didn't spend that much time in year six. I spent a lot more time with the younger children, and I didn't think, because my first year group were year five, and I thought, that would be my sort of area, but I actually spent a whole lot more time in early years and key stage one than you might think.
Didn't get promoted to year six then.
I was never good enough.
Yeah. Didn't get that pay rise that automatically happens. That proportionate depending on the age of the children you teach. Yeah. No, I started first few years in year six, and then had to force my way out of year six, because once you're comfortable there, head teachers tend to be quite happy to keep you in year six because other people don't want it. So I forced my way down to kind of a year 3-4 mix, and then briefly year five, and then forced my way down to year two, and also got the chance eventually to do some year one and reception teaching. But yeah, a lot of time in year six.
Nice. Like I said, it'd be really useful. All of those questions came from Discord. I think if anyone would like to ask questions, Discord is probably the best place. I mean, our email address is thinkingdeeplyinfo@gmail.com. Also use that. But I wouldn't necessarily bother as much with Twitter anymore, because Twitter's a bit of a mess. And thanks for that, Elon. Cheers, buddy. All I said to do is say thank you very much for joining me. Thank you very much, Chris.
Thanks for having me again.
Thank you, Lloyd.
Thank you very much.
And everyone at home, until next time, thanks for listening.